Thank you so much for you all joining. I am so happy to share this great information with you. I hope you find it super valuable and helps you really launch your business and your brand out there and you succeed beyond measure. So with all you hundreds of people here today in this webinar, in the chat, if you could just give me your name, your business, and what you do, that would be phenomenal. And then I'll kind of have an idea who's sort of participating. And that way, if you have any questions, please fill a chat out or raise your hand. I would tend to do a full screen when I'm doing my webinar and I can't see the chat, but it looked like when Gabby actually did have her screen, I could see the chat. So definitely is a good thing. So if you can tell me who you are, somebody named Haley, it looks like she's here. Could you tell me what you do and what your business is?
You're too funny.
Yes, do you want me to put it in the chat or just say it?
You could, yeah, you can put it in the chat or you can let us know.
Okay. Well, my name is Haley Moore. I'm a author and illustrator. I'll be coming out with my first children's book. So the publishing that I want to put it under is a company that I would create. So it would be my publishing company. And then I'm also a professional background singer as well.
Nice. That's fabulous. All right. Anybody else who comes in, just, put your name and your business and what you do in the chat and we'll, hopefully get some insights for your business. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start. So I'm going to take over the screen here. All righty. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I love doing these kinds of presentations. It feeds my soul because I love teaching, and I'm really, really excited to be doing this in person again one of these days as well. So my name is Gina Sonardo, and I help people who are willing to invest in themselves, helping a personal brand that shines with dynamic portrait photography. So I am a professional photographer and I express myself through my craft by artistically capturing people's essence and their brand stories. So that's ultimately what I do. But in this area, I also do other kinds of portrait photography. I also do family portraits as well as senior portraits. I'm out there because I need to have the bread and butter and of course, business headshots. And I'm also running some great specials. So go to my website and go to specials because I always have specials going on. Another thing that I have done in the past has been a graphic designer. And so I worked as a media specialist for the Air Force years ago. And when I first moved out to San Luis Obispo and started my business, I really modeled my business out of the job that I had working with the Air Force because it was about all kinds of things. It was photography, it was graphic design, it was the survey that just opened up. And oh, there we go. And
sorry about that, Gina.
It's kind of strange.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay.
And so when I came out here, I just like to do a lot of different things. I would help people with presentations. I would help them with their PowerPoint. I would do posters. I would do all kinds of really cool things. So when I moved out here, I modeled my business after that. And because of that too, it also means that you help people with their websites and so forth. And I don't love building websites for people. I like working on my own website and I'm really good at WordPress. So I'll tell you what I can help you with if you're actually a client of MCSC and the Women's Business Center, but we'll get to that later. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about creating a brand identity that wins an audience and grows your business. My first presentation I did with the Women's Business Center was called How to Develop a Brilliant Brand, and I still love that title, but this is really telling people how you're going to get yourself out there and what you're going to do to grow the business with the brand identity. And so on that note, I'm going to go ahead and just get started. So what we're going to start with is creating a brand identity. The first thing that we're going to do, obviously, is create a logo, right? And the logo is basically a visual image developed with font and design elements. I do have to do one thing. I have to move the bar so that there we go.
And Gina, if I may interject just real quick, we have
Yes.
another attendee. I hope I'm not sabotaging your name, but it's Layla. You know what, Layla, would you like to just unmute your mic, please?
Yeah, hi, it's Layla and my last
Hi.
name's Khalil.
Thank you. Sorry about
Hi,
that.
Layla. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet
And
you
if you
too.
could in the chat, let us know what your business is, and if you have a business name or whatever, put that in there as well.
Okay,
and
I'll
what you
add the
do.
business name in. Thank you.
All right, here we go. I think I have Zoom situated now. Okay, so a logo is a visual image developed with fonts, design elements, and a specific color scheme that becomes the symbol and identifier for the company, product, or service. And this is where we begin? Well, no, actually, this is not where we begin. A brand is way more than a logo. A brand is ultimately, it's the intention that you put into a business entity, and it is the impression that people get when they see your brand image or hear it, for that matter. If I say Amazon, you have an impression of what that business does, who they are, how they serve their clients, what they do, beyond even just buying things online. They're all over the place now. So that is what a brand is. But in order for you to develop the brand, you have to really intentionally put thought into what it stands for and what it means, okay? So the problem is we don't really take the time. Most businesses, when they get going, I'm gonna just tell you this right now, all business owners are full of passion because they have something that they're really good at and they want to share it with the world. So yay. You know, I mean, that's why I support business and women in business, anybody in business, but women in business especially, because it's not an easy thing to do. Being in business is one of the things that will actually teach you more about yourself than anything else, especially if you're persistent and you're determined. So with that, most people get this full of passion. They have this business concept and they're going to just create a logo on Canva or whatever and put it out there and get it going. But you want to sort of step it back a little bit. You want to take the time to really put meaning behind what it stands for, okay? And the reason why is because if you don't really put a lot of intent behind your brand message, then, well, most people are going to just do it for you. Your audience will actually do it for you. And the reason why is because, well, for one, when you actually have your first client, or when you first tell the world you're in business, that's when your brand begins. That's when people are starting to now get an impression for what it is you do and how you serve your customers, okay? So what we're gonna really explore is how to create a brand persona, okay? We're gonna create this persona that will encompass what eventually the symbol will represent. And we're going to build that symbol, that icon, that logo, whatever that might be, based on everything that the persona emulates. And the reason why we do this persona is because people really want to relate to something that's human. Even Amazon has a persona. You know, any big brand out there, Apple has a persona, Microsoft has a persona. All of those have values and characteristics that are unique from one another, even if they have lots of competition in the same industry, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is design the personality of the brand in order to translate it into those fonts, the colors, and the design elements that inevitably communicates the feeling or the vibration of its personality. And then it becomes the identifier and the symbol in and of itself. And keep in mind too, and I'm only gonna say this a couple times because when I first did this presentation, it was more about creating a brand identity for a personal brand. And you are gonna see lots of my photography today because that's what I do. And I help people with their personal brand. people think that they need to do their personal brand first, but it depends. It all depends on who you are, what your business is, who you're serving. If you are, for example, really promoting yourself as a singer, then you're promoting your personal brand more than anything. But if you're presenting yourself as an author, or maybe you are going to be selling products related to children's books or whatever that might be, then you can actually brand the entity or the business. Ultimately, whatever business you're in, you're going to define the business first if you're going to market the business first. So if you sell ice cream, you're definitely going to be branding the business. So the process for branding a business and a personal brand is the same. It's absolutely the same. You may get a little bit more into the characteristics and essence of a personal brand than you might a business brand, but it's the same. Okay. So the three things that we're going to really focus on is the values and your mission, is your brand promise, and then your brand essence. This is what's going to encompass your brand persona. So we're going to define your values first, and then what you're going to really try to do is align with them. Now, as human beings, we should always do this, even for our own personal selves. Okay, we should really put out there, what is it we believe in? What is it we strive for? What is it we desire? You know, all these values that we have floating around in us. We have lots of them based on society's influences, our parents, and everything like that. When you really say, okay, this is what I believe in, then you should live up to those beliefs. And I think a lot of times when people have emotional struggles and resistances in their lives, it's because they are not adhering, they're not being authentic to their values, to their true values. And in business, what you're going to ultimately do is you're going to create that business based on your personal values, even though you're still going to think about what the client is wanting. So there is a lot of parts and pieces to this, but ultimately the business is still you, right? Even if you're even if you have this idea of becoming a huge firm and a franchise, it's still you. You are the creator, okay? So to begin with, you're going to really brainstorm on your values. Now, those two participants who just joined, I did have a worksheet. And if you have the worksheet will go into the steps of what it takes to create the brand persona, as well as the steps to create your brand strategy. But I'm probably not going to be sharing my slides because I have a lot of pictures in them and it's too big to send to people. I've tried multiple times. So take good notes. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now. But as far as like the steps for the persona, that's in your handout. And if you don't have a handout, you can email me or Gabrielle and she will send that to you. Okay, so to begin, values. Your steps are going to be to brainstorm. I just want you to sort of write out all the values that are really important to you that you know of. So there's, success-oriented, authenticity, security, family values. There's all kinds of values out there that you're going to just brainstorm. You can do a total brain dump. And then you're going to start narrowing it down. You're going to narrow it down to maybe 10 values that are most important to you. And then maybe you're going to narrow those down to like 5 values. And those 5 values you can work with. Inevitably, your brand is going to encompass maybe 3 core values. That makes it simpler. You don't want to dilute your brand with so much information that it's hard for people to grasp the essence of it. So we're just going to kind of compact it a little bit. Now, those values you do want to make relevant to your clients. So really think of you brain dump all of your values, but then narrow them down to maybe your work ethic values, or what is important to you and your clients, because this is where you're going to start thinking about who your clients are and what they value, because we're going to create a persona of them as well eventually. All right, so a set of beliefs and opinions that influence how you live your life is what a value is. They are the company's core principles that are reflected in the vision and mission of the organization. So it could be all kinds of different, love could be one, security. There are tons of values out there. And you can look up a list of values, but I wouldn't. I would try to do it just straight from your head. And then if you want to look at a value list, you can kind of like see what other values might be more relevant. And then you're going to narrow those down. Okay, now when you have those values set, what you're going to do is you're going to write a vision statement, you're going to write a mission statement, and you're going to incorporate those values within that statement. Okay, and a mission statement is, well, it really states how you serve the client. It's not so much, it's not a brand proposition. We're going to go into that a little bit more detail, but it's just how, in general, how you serve the client and what it is you're striving to accomplish with your business. All right. The next thing we're going to do is talk about what you promise to deliver. Now, what you promise to deliver is basically like a brand promise. And a brand promise is a value or experience your customers can expect every time they see you. Okay. Then there's also a value proposition. Your value proposition is a declaration that introduces your brand to your customers and states what you do and how you'll deliver it to your customers. So a brand promise can be a tagline. It could be how somebody's going to, it could be how a company is going to deliver every single time, and it instills in the mind of their customers what they can expect. So ultimately what you're doing is you're showcasing the experience you're going to give them before they even hire you. A value proposition is a little bit longer statement, and that is ultimately what I stated in the very, very beginning when we started, which is I help women or people who are willing to invest in themselves by developing a personal brand that shines with dynamic portrait photography. So I'm telling them what it is I do, how I'm going to serve them, and what it is they're going to get. So let's just see a couple of, does somebody want to put that in the chat? Did I tell you it was going to be interactive? All right, well, I'm going to just throw it out there. It's actually where dreams come true. And there's different taglines for Disney. There's Disneyland, and then there's Disney Corporation. So the Disney Corporation is where dreams come true, obviously. And then what about this one? Does anybody know what this one is? You can just put it in the chat real quick. It's think different. And why is because, you know, one of Apple's core values is ingenuity or out of the box thinking. And then there's this one. Does anybody want to put that in the chat? Does anybody know what this one is? Just do it. Well, that's close. It's close, but actually that's their tagline, and it's a really great tagline, but it's not actually their brand promise. Their brand promise is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And the reason why it's not is because Just Do It doesn't really share. I mean, it's a really good tagline, but it doesn't share what they're promising to deliver. So they just created it separately. So it doesn't have to. So basically your brand promise does not have to be your tagline. It's probably more effective, but I think Nike's marketing, it was effective when they did Just Do It anyway. All right. So now we're going to talk about what the essence is. Okay, so what is essence? Well, they're unique characteristics of the brand that sets you apart from your competition. So there's Geico, State Farm, Nationwide Insurance. So all of these companies do exactly the same thing. They sell car insurance. Some of them might have different tiers But they're all very unique and different, and they all have a different persona. So what's unique about Geico is it's a funny brand. So it's very fun and lighthearted and playful. And clearly what their tagline is, 15 minutes or less can save you 15% or more on car insurance. So their key value is obviously affordability. And then they're playful. State Farm is a really old company. It started in like 1922, and those 3 dots actually represent the 3 tiers that they sell, which is car, I think, life, and fire insurance. And they are like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. So they are the kind of company that has your back. They're there to help you when situations get tough. And then Nationwide, their value proposition or their brand promise is protecting what matters most. And so they're more about security and protection. So they're all really unique. So in a way, what happens is when you really know who your customer is, who you definitely want to serve, then you're going to attract those kinds of people, because somebody who wants a really good deal is probably not going to go to State Farm. They're going to go to Geico first. And if somebody's really, their value is about protection and security, then they're going to go with Nationwide. And if somebody wants somebody to watch their back, they're going to go with State Farm. And I've been a State Farm client for pretty much all my life. Not that saying you should go to State Farm, but you know what? They got my back. So let's uncover the brand essence. So the brand essence is the soul of the brand that appears authentic. Because when you showcase unique characteristics of that brand that are different from your competitors, then you are going to look authentic and genuine. And this is also a really key point as a business owner, especially a small business owner, is that the more genuine are about the meaning behind the brand, the easier it is to market yourself. I know, and it's really tough because part of this process is going to be doing some research on who your competitors are. And so if you do the research on other competitors, be wary of not copying that characteristic. You don't want to emulate them. You want to be completely unique. So I feel like you should ultimately choose your characteristics before you even do your research, because that way it's going to come really from the heart and more from a genuine place as opposed to what you're already seeing out there. But this will then validate too that you're unique from those other competitors of yours. So you're going to go through the same process that we did with the values. You're going to identify all your unique characteristics. And now, if you're a personal brand, and you're going to want to put your face in front of the business first as the primary marketer, especially if you're using your name in your marketing as part of your business name, then you're going to want to delve a little deeper into how people see you, the person. So you might want to expand your research on how other people see you by asking your network, hey, what is it I bring to the table when I show up to a meeting? Or what do you notice the most about me? Why did you hire me? Why did you purchase my book? Why did you come to my whatever that is, concert, whatever that is. So find out what other people think about you, because it's a really surprise. It's going to be an interesting epiphany, because you see yourselves differently than other people. And it's really important when you're especially developing a brand for a personal brand, that you see how other people see you. With a business brand, you're still going to be genuine to who you are. You are still the creator, but you're thinking more in terms of an entity that's going to represent the marketing and the brand of it, not necessarily the person. So I don't think you need to worry so much how you show up, but you're still a personal brand behind the business. So if you're branding a business in general right now, eventually you want to think about what your personal brand is saying to other people also. And so that's kind of what I would suggest as your homework if you're doing a personal brand versus a business brand. And don't get confused over that. Again, it's the same process. And you could do this even if you're just doing a business brand. It's kind of nice to know what other people are thinking. I sat at a table once, and that was one of our topics on the table was, what's the first thing that people notice about you? And some people at the table knew me pretty well, and some people at the table had just met me. And I think 3 out of the 4 or 3 out of the 6 people or something like that said I was, oh, you're such a bubbly person. At first I was like, bubbly? Like, I don't want to be known as bubbly, but you know what? I kind of am, especially when I'm really, really energized and working. I tend to be a little bit fast and I giggle a lot. So I can understand that. Eventually I learned to realize that I should just own it and I'm good with it. But I use a different keyword and I'll show you that later. Okay. So again, you have all of these other cool characteristics. And for those of you who are online and you want a resource, email me. My email, I can actually put this in the chat, I think. No, I can't. I'll put my email in the chat, and it's also probably on my worksheet. Email me and I'll send you this resource. I have it on my website. It's like 100 characteristic words and 100, something around 100 value words. And that's really kind of a nice resource to access if you want to use that. All right. So refining your brand persona. So now that you have all of your keywords, okay, so you have your keywords or your key characteristics, your key values, you've written the mission statement, you've written a value proposition, which is like a 30-second elevator pitch. Ultimately, that's what it is. It's the easiest way to do it. You can find formulas out there for it. You can write it multiple different ways. I think the main thing as a business owners too is always just test. But eventually, once you really refine this process, you're going to want to be super consistent. And I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So once you have all those key elements and your tagline, whatever that might be, or your brand promise, you're going to categorize. Now, I tend to do this for my clients. You don't have to necessarily do this, because that way I have 6 points that I can use as part of the visual essence of the brand when I'm capturing it with photography. So I categorize it. So if one of their values is passion, for example, then passion is going to definitely be somebody who lands on the high energy side. If they are meticulous, then maybe that's somebody who is more rational, or, that's careful thinker. Maybe not meticulous. I'm like, whatever, you know what I mean? I'm contradicting myself. Okay, so maybe they are, well, meticulous could be considered scientific or rational, but they're very driven and detail oriented. That was the word I was trying to think of. Then you can maybe categorize them as scientific and rational. Cutting edge brands tend to be very modern and very technical. So most of the brands that I do are not cutting edge brands because they're people. But if your company is a software engineering company and you're developing applications, then definitely you would want to be considered modern edge. So this is kind of looking at the persona from the client's point of view. And then, of course, like a Geico, are you going to be a fun brand? Are you going to be a serious brand? Are you going to be accessible or are you going to be upscale? And upscale doesn't necessarily mean price. Upscale could technically also mean that it's just harder to attain. So maybe you have to put people through a specific process in order for them to actually attain whatever you're selling, whatever goods or services you're selling. Of course, if it's very expensive, it's definitely considered upscale. But sometimes it's really about where you are in the process. So it doesn't necessarily have to be upscale. Ultimately, most of us are accessible. We want everybody to see who our brand is. We want to be priced according to what our competitors are priced at. But if you are an upscale brand, then you need to actually really show it as an upscale brand, and that it's harder to attain, and that it's going to take a little bit more work for them to actually get what you're looking for. Okay, so the goal ultimately is to visually align the essence with your brand image. Okay, and there you go. So that is the brand persona. Now, there's another way that you can categorize yourself, and you don't have to do this. It's totally up to you. And that is to determine what your archetype is. Okay, so your archetype is basically, well, let me tell you what it is first. It's basically a recurring persona in literature that represents universal patterns of human nature. So for example, the hero, or in this case, the sage or the outlaw. So you can categorize your brand persona under these 12 key personality types. And you don't have to copy this or anything like that, because you just have to Google brand archetype and these 12 personality types will come up. And so ultimately what you can do is you can put yourself into one of these categories. It doesn't always work though. There is an advantage to doing this. Part of the advantage is that you're creating the archetype to build a brand narrative around it, and then create an emotional connection with that target audience. So if you are the magician, for example, then you're going to actually present yourself as this magical being with power that can save people and to transform and to make things happen. Make things happen is a good one. Power is really good. So that sometimes helps. For me, it never really did. I tried to put myself into an archetype, and I would definitely say I'm under the creator or the innovation aspect of it. But I am also a storyteller. So I capture people's stories with pictures, and I also consider myself a lover. So it just doesn't work. But it can, and if it does, then that works for you, then absolutely do it, because it's just another way to make your brand look more humanistic. And of course, if you're a personal brand, you are the human, obviously. So the personal brand essence is again all about, it's the same process, but I'm going to show you an example here. So an example of a personal brand essence would be a client that I have worked with. Her name is Angel, and she's actually one of the teachers for the Women's Business Center in the Central Valley. And you may have heard of her, you may have met her. I'm not sure if everybody's from San Luis Obispo, but she's really great. Her name is Angel, and she has a business called Apollo Consulting. And she works with other companies that are making like $1 million or more a year, and they've grown so fast, or maybe they have just are really doing great business, but they can't support the infrastructure, whether it's the emotional aspect of it behind it, or they just grew too fast and they can't support it. So she comes in and she saves these companies basically. And so it was definitely all about confidence, strategy, focus that her brand needed to be. Now, what she did is she had me help her develop her personal brand first, before she even had the logo, before she even started the company, because she knew that she was going to be out there in public telling what it is she does, and she needed those keywords right away, and she just liked my vision and how I did it and my process. So she hired me, and we took amazing pictures of her. But when you start to do this, now you have these words. Okay, so you have these keywords that include values and characteristics. You can start to put color to it, what insightful color means, what does insightful project as a color? What does empathy project as a color, or passion, or strategy, or confidence, or knowledge? You can start to think about what that all means. And so here's kind of what she came up with. Now, here's a photo that I took of her. And this was about 4 or 5 years ago. And she already knew her color was going to be this passion color, this sort of peachy color. And that was going to be the predominant color in her brand. But the gold is great because it really sort of brings out the insightfulness and the empathic part to it. And then having the bow and arrow in the O is all about strategy and focus. So it actually came out really, really nice. And her pictures are pretty amazing. She exuded confidence and knowledge in just about every single one of them. So it really worked for her benefit to get out there and start using her pictures in her storytelling. Let me just make sure I've got everything. Okay, so just remember though, the purpose of your logo is not just as the identifier of the business. What you're ultimately doing is you're giving the audience a taste of the experience that you'll give them. So when you go to her page, now she has a very professional and almost corporate looking page. It's still unique and it still has her pictures in it. But she needed to really understand where she was going to be going to build the brand around those goals. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But so ultimately what she was trying to accomplish was to show that what she's trying to accomplish when you go to her landing page is to show that she's a bigger than she really is. And I'll give you a little more insights on that again later. But when you see the brand, you kind of understand that she is not going to be the type of business coach that's going to coddle you in any way. She's going to say, you need to do it. You need to do the work. You need to do the due diligence. She's all about she has a very serious vibe. In fact, her tagline is aim, commit, grow. So that's kind of the idea. People can tell immediately what kind of coach she's going to be. And some people really need that. And some people will be like, no, I need somebody that's not going to like yell at me or something. But you know what I mean? Okay. I'm going to show you my brand elements because I figured, well, I have all my key elements together. I may as well show you how I developed it. It took me a while to create my own brand words because when we do our brands, when we develop our own brands, it's hard because we're so close to it. So this is not an easy process. Okay. Feel free to get input, even if you are just doing a business brand and not just a personal brand, get input because you need to be able to see what the perspective of your audience, the perspective of your potential customers. And so I finally got my brand keywords really, really solid. And it makes a big difference because when you know those keywords, then when you're always going back to your marketing messages, you can bring these keywords into a lot of your messaging. Okay. And that's what adds to the consistency. So creative, obviously, I'm a creator. I'm an artist. In fact, I was going to put artist on here, but I feel like I don't just create for myself and I don't just create art. I create businesses. I help people create their business. So I also am a big advocate on authenticity. Instead of using the word bubbly, I used effervescent. Effervescent. It's a little better than bubbly. and Liz helped me with that one. If you guys are in the class, thank goodness for Liz, right? Success, warmth, connection, and professionalism. Seriously, that's what Gabby says. Yes. All right. And so I interpreted those into my colors. I've adapted my colors throughout the years. And so the purple really represented my authentic and creative side, because I feel like when you're really open to the creative process, you're working at a higher spiritual level. And I am a spiritual person. So that was really important. And then the gold is the warmth and the effervescent part of it and the connection part, because orange and yellows are very warm. And so They tend to be about collaboration, friendship, community, and so forth. And then professionalism is kind of like the gray vibe, which I tend to use for my fonts and stuff. It makes it classy and sophisticated while still being dark enough to be able to see and read. Now, I've had my logo a long time. So my brand has adapted and evolved like tremendously. I didn't even have a logo. I just had the Junichi Studio signature, which I customized from a font. I'm a graphic designer, so I do all my own graphics. And so ultimately it just wanted it to be really simple. Junichi is my full name. So my name is Gina Nicole Sonardo, but I didn't want Sonardo Photography because it's too long. And I had that domain a long time ago. Actually, I think I still have the domain. Sonardo, nobody knows how to spell my last name. It's impossible. It's Sicilian. Nobody's going to know that. But I wanted to sort of truncate it. And so it's basically the first two initials to my name. It made it simple. Not everybody can spell Junichi. It would be pronounced Junichi in Italy, but it's, you know, Janici is fine as well. And a studio is something that I want. I have. I'm expanding a little bit, so I even want a bigger entity so that I can do multiple projects, not just photography, because I like to dance, I like to do all kinds. So studios was really important to me. The insignia came a little later because I wanted to have it look like my ethnicity. So I kind of found some Sicilian, Italian, Tuscany kind of symbols and icons on tile work, and I liked it, and it added that spark. So that was where the effervescent came in. And then my tagline, your charm is the real you and your portraits prove it. That came to me years ago, and it has stuck. I love that, my tagline, because I feel like it totally represents what I do, which is I capture people's essence. And so that is the charm of them. And so what my portraits do is prove it. Okay, so there you go. Now, let's say you have all of these elements now in place. You have your keywords, right? Creative, authentic, effervescent, those, whatever your keywords are. You can use those to help you create the visual image of the brand itself, or you can actually pass it on to the graphic designer. If you have a graphic designer, great. If you don't want to spend the money on a graphic designer, you could try Fiverr. They're a lot more reasonable. But I really highly recommend using a graphic designer for a couple of reasons, because then you're going to get the right kind of digital files that you can then use and integrate in multiple ways in your business. Because if you just do something in a Canva and you just use a clip art thing, or you know, it's not going to be, number one, is authentic. Then if you have somebody create something from scratch, but then you're probably not going to have any other files except for JPEGs or PNGs. And that's not what you want. You want the press ready files that you can use to send to printers or anything for, you know, promotional projects or products or product packaging. So it's really important to have those vector graphics that a graphic artist would create. That would be my suggestion. And that way they will keyword everything. So this is just my actual sheet shows not just my color schemes and the online code that you tend to use on some of your other platforms, but it also has my RGB colors. It also has my CMYK colors and also have Pantone colors. I have a listing of all my fonts. So if I need to send that to an artist, I can just send it to them and they have all of that information. So that's what I would suggest doing. It's an art graphic artist, if you give them what your brand stands for, like these are my keywords, this is my mission statement, this is my brand promise, this is my value proposition, they're gonna love you. They're gonna love you. They're gonna just be like, cool. They're gonna be like me. Now what do I create out of this unique, you know, individual in company? And they like that stuff. So then the second part of this is going to be really about how to develop a brand strategy. So, you know, you started a business, you've got this brand now, you've developed your persona, or have you? We don't know. You can start really at any point to this, or any point into the development part of it, because you're going to be working in tandem with other tasks, right? You're going to be learning about your customers on certain days. And so your brand in general, I'm just telling you this right now, is it's always a work in progress. It's always evolving. To develop a brand strategy, we're going to do several different things. And that is going to be, we're going to define what our goals are and what is your future. And I'm going to go into these in more detail so you don't have to write this down or anything. Clients who you are working with, understanding who they are. Brand positioning, like what sets you apart from your competitors. Messaging, how you solve your customer's pain. Your marketing strategy, which is the way you deliver your messaging. I'm going to start with goals. Okay, so what are your goals? So include in your overall goals your business strategy. So including your overall business strategy in your business plan or your branding plan is your vision for growth. Now, some of you probably thinking, well, I have no idea. I mean, unless you're the kind of company that's really thinking about their exit strategy, I don't think you need to go all the way to the end of your business. But if you can just project a little bit of what you had planned for the growth of your business, especially if it takes off, right? Because that's what our goal is, that we want it to take off. So even if it's just starting with, well, I have 2 clients a week, from 2 years from now, I have 10 clients a week, or whatever that is. So define what that is, and which determines basically how fast you want to grow. But write in there also some of your personal goals. You know, if you wanted to write a book, or develop a YouTube channel with millions of followers, you know, whatever that might be. The reason why is because when you start to develop what the brand looks like, you're also going to want to make it appear how you envision it actually growing. So right now, what a lot of people do is we start off small. We get a website up, we put the logo up there, an about me page and a services page, and that's fine. It's how we start and launch our business. That also will always change and evolve and adapt. But if you're planning, let's say you're a massage therapist, and if you're a massage therapist, you're going to have a website that's my name, Massage Therapy. This is what I do. These are the kinds of body work that I offer. And but let's say in your mind, you know, you've got a little space, your office that you're renting, but you want to make this space into a wellness center. Like, let's say in 10 years, you really envision that, you know, you're going to have a bigger space and you're going to be renting out other spaces to other body workers or metaphysical artists or whatever that might be. And you want a wellness center that's going to encompass that. If that's your vision, then you need your brand to actually look like that vision. Like, then you're more likely to become what it is you're envisioning. So don't think small right now. If you have really big goals, write that in your brand strategy plan, because it's going to help with your messaging and with the look and feel and vibration of the brand itself. The next thing is to really define who your ideal customer is. And I have a picture here illustrating every single one of these slides because, well, that's what I do. And this is Megan. She's an amazing writer. And she's saying, oh, is that what you want to do? Is define my target audience. Well, she was my target audience. She was amazing. I work with a lot of writers and entertainers and people who are, you know, obviously being their own brand, their personal brand. But she was so much fun to work with. She was the most expressive person. I loved that. So the first thing you got to really do, and this is super important, is to really create a detailed client profile. Now, a lot of us, what we do is we work, we have a job, but we have skills and we have trainings and we've learned things. We've become experts at certain things. And now we have to interpret that into a business model and become a service provider or a product, you know, develop products. So it's a totally different feel. You know, you're no longer working under another brand umbrella. You are trying to attract the people you like to work with. So if you're starting out, you're just starting out, it's kind of hard to know who your ideal customer is. Like I said, this is going to continually adapt, and you might have different kinds of clients. So for example, I have my business to business oriented clients who are looking to hire me for their advertising photography, or even if it's just business headshots or corporate headshots, or even product photography. And then I have my family and lifestyle photography clients, and senior portraits and beauty and glamour. So I have 2 profiles for each of those types of clients. That way, when you're talking to them, which is your audience, wherever that may be, you're speaking directly to this person. So I literally have a picture. It's not Megan, it's actually another client. It might've been Angel. She's my ideal client. And I created this whole profile of her. So you need to be aware of your client's point of view and their priorities. Like if for me, how much of a priority is it for somebody to get family portraits? Right now, maybe not so much. Right before Christmas, when everybody is visiting them, yes, that's a priority. So that's where you kind of know, like, when are they going to be really ready for you? And what is their point of view? How do they see you? This is really, really important. And then understand what their frustrations are and their pain points, and the motivation they have for hiring you. Like I said, if it's Christmas and their whole family is in town, their motivation to hire a photographer is really important. If they're launching a new program and they need marketing materials to put on their website for their program, then the motivation is really, really high. So understanding this is going to be critical to where you find your customers as well. And then knowing their personality and what their goals are. And a lot of my ideal clients' goals are similar to mine. It's to build and grow a business. So it's kind of nice. I am my own ideal customer. Okay, and then where do they prefer to hang out? Where are they? What are their favorite marketing channels? And we'll go into a little bit more detail when we get to the marketing plan of this. All right. So how will you position your brand? Now, you're probably getting overwhelmed. I know you're doing that right now. So I just went through all of this detail on how to build a brand, create a brand persona so that you can start envisioning what the right colors and the fonts and all of that would be to reflect the personality of that brand. But the first thing you got to do, like we were talking about earlier, is to research your competition and see how they have positioned their brand. So I would still define your brand persona and then start doing the research. So pick 10 customers that are just like you. Now, I know some of us do multiple things. So if you do multiple things, you don't want to dilute yourself on a website that says, well, I'm a makeup artist and a style consultant, and I'm also a tax attorney. You're not going to do that. You're going to have, that would be 2 separate things. You don't want to be so dilated that you're going to be communicating to your customers that you're not really good at one thing. So you do many things. You still want to be very, very defined as far as what your services you're offering in your industry. So research that industry, the primary one that you're going to be marketing. So do a little research, find out how they have positioned their brand, and maybe even how they market themselves. You can probably do a Google search on how to really research your competition or how to research your competitors. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to develop a brand persona, which we have just extensively talked about. So this is how we position ourselves, because ultimately, when you write that brand promise and your value proposition, that is how you're positioning yourself in the marketplace, right? And then you're going to create the visual identity of the brand. This is also how you position yourself. It's all there. It's the personality. It's your mission and everything. That's all together. So that's how we position our brand. And so we don't have to go into a lot more detail about this, because the next step is basically developing your brand voice. And this is all about your messaging. Okay. So your messaging includes your purpose, values, mission, and promise. Now, these are the, I think there are 7 pillars of messaging, or 6 pillars. I don't know. There's a lot of P's in a marketing plan, or a brand strategy plan. So this one's the 7 or 6 pillars of marketing. And the one is purpose. So when you talk about your purpose, you've already got your value statement, your mission statement, and your promise statement, whatever statements you have all of that out there, your brand promise and mission. That's part of what your purpose is. Then your positioning is your value proposition. Your personality is the brand essence, or the archetype that you're sharing your message with. Okay, so I am a high energy photographer. I use high energy because that's my effervescent, but I don't really want to say effervescent, it's too long. So my high energy photographer. And then promotion, what you're communicating your brand personality into an identity system. So basically that is when you're communicating what your brand stands for and showcasing it within your brand system itself. So what it looks like. And this is going to be not just the logo and the color scheme of the logo, but the color scheme and, vibe of all of your packaging. So you have a logo, and if your logo is very corporate, then your website should also represent that corporation. If it's a more personable brand, and it's a softer, so let's say it's a signature or something that with a little symbol, then your website is going to be softer. It's going to have that same vibe, the same color scheme. That's the system. And then of course your products, your offerings, service, and all of the touch points that your clients are coming into. All of those areas will have messaging, right? And will share messaging in a specific way. Do I have another one? No. So your brand story is unfolding across multiple touch points, okay? And that even begins with you going to a networking event and meeting people in person. And then it's going to also be how you answer the phone if they call you. And it's also going to be what it feels like and the experience they get when they land on your website. And it's also going to be the stories you tell on your social media platforms, or your email marketing campaigns, or in your YouTube, or in your podcast. All of that incorporates your brand story. So how will you develop a marketing plan? So now that you've got the messaging done and everything is all complete, right? We're going to, curious, the 7 Ps, we have more Ps, the 7 Ps of marketing. So you have your products. What are you selling? So this is you defining exactly what you're selling. It includes all of the features and all of the benefits to what it is you're selling. And I don't know if you've noticed, but if you do have my worksheet, you'll notice on there the aspects of a great brand. That was one of the first things I did when I started branding myself, is defining exactly what you get when you have a great brand. And that clearly defines who and what you do, shows you are serious about your business, builds credibility with what you do, makes people trust you more, and gives others the perception that you're worth it, and then sets you apart from your competitor, emotionally connects you to an audience, positioned to draw in a target customer, attracts opportunities that are in line with your vision and your values, and it also tells a great story. So those are my benefits, right? So do a brain dump again, like everything you give them, even if it is the ease of use, or if you're a one-stop shop, things where they get more out of your service than maybe the other competitor. maybe one of your competitors. Like, and so I feel like I'm very different kind of a photographer from, say, a wedding photographer, because a wedding photographer goes to the extent to understand the wedding process and what their needs are and what's going to be happening. I'm not a wedding photographer, but if you hired a wedding photographer to do their brand photography, would they understand to go through the extent to define the brand first and understand who their audience is and so forth? It's different. So I feel like that makes me more valuable than a wedding photographer if you're looking for brand photography. Pricing, research the market, include all overhead costs and how your customers will pay. So how they'll pay, will they go through PayPal? Are you going to set up a system through your bank? How you're going to put that on your website, as well as research the market as far as what the pricing is, and market it or price everything out strategically, but don't undersell yourself. And that was, this is always going to change. Like, you have to get it out there in order to know if it's the right price or not. But you also know your worth, like always know your value, because even if you're just new to the industry, you still don't want to undersell yourself and give more than you're willing to give. If it feels bad, it is wrong. It's not genuine to you. Promotion. So seasonal promotions and sales tactics. I do lots of seasonal promotions. I have tons that I have coming up. But it takes time, especially when you do your own marketing and your own graphics. So it's all going to be launched pretty soon. I have a Beauty at the Beach session coming up. I have a 2-for-1 next week starting. So it's all a work in progress, because it also gives people interest, because I know my customers are always looking for a great deal. The economy is not great right now, so people are looking for the best deal possible. So that's where you can actually throw in these promotional seasonal promotions and sales tactics. A place is basically where your products are sold, or the service that you're doing for them is conducted. So a studio, sometimes most of the time I actually go to my clients, but so where your products are sold, keep in mind that too is going to be an avenue to develop the brand, right? So if you have a brand that you've already developed the logo with, how does that translate into a space, an environment? This is another experience that you're giving them. And that's another touch point as they come in and sit on your lounge chairs or read a magazine, whatever that is. People includes you and your staff, and who provides the excellent customer service experience. And when I say excellent customer service, because we should, as service providers and business owners, always provide the best customer service possible. And keep in mind, if you have a really well-developed brand, and not everybody is going to be happy. You're going to be serving your customers. Not everybody is going to love exactly what you do. And that's okay. They just might not have been a right fit. Sometimes when we get those kinds of clients, it really helps us understand too, who our target audience is. Maybe they were not ready or whatever that might be. But keep in mind that, the best customer service possible includes everything from the very ending of the work experience. So that even means like a thank you email or following up even 2 months from now. So that whole experience is a part of it. And if you get a bad review, if you have a strong brand already developed, even if you've only been in business for a year or two, it's so much easier to come back and say, oh, I'm sorry, but one of our values is, is service. Like, that's one of our primary values. We're going to do our best to do better next time, or whatever you do to resolve it. If you have zero brand and you just threw it up there, it's going to be a lot harder to recover from a bad review, because every time people go to it, they don't see anything else about what your brand is about. They just see a logo and a bad review. So it's so much better to have this in place, this infrastructure in place when you're going forward in marketing, because not everybody is going to be a perfect fit. So just so you know. And then process. how you deliver your products and services. And that might be, if you have a store and you put it in the bag and you put the packaging in it and you hand them that's one way for delivery. For me, I deliver by providing a nice gallery and a means for them to download their images, because the stick anymore is not used, and you have to ship it or they have to pick it up. So it's just another thing. I offer it if they want to have a flash drive. But for the most part, digital downloads are easy. Prints, I send them, I ship them. They're packaged with a little thing and a bow. It's just adorable. So there's all that. And then the physical part of it, that is everything related to how the brand integrates. That's the store, like we were talking about, how you design the store based around the brand, the product packaging, the website, everything as far as what the customer sees and how they interact with your business. So there are two kinds of marketing. There's pull marketing. And when you do pull marketing, the pull marketing is the process of drawing in your consumers to your product. And the goal is to create loyal customers. So this would be like content marketing, social media marketing, YouTube, podcasts, because you're giving people content, and that's already a value, right? If you're writing blogs, this is a great way to use content marketing, is to write your blogs based on what you're selling or service that you're offering. And all of those blogs could then have all the keywords relevant to your benefits, your values and characteristics, and how you serve, as well as your offers and tips. So people want more of that, right? You're giving away free content, but it's not actually the service of the products that you're giving them. You're just giving them value. You're giving them stories. And that's where you can actually use those keywords, whatever that is, your benefit keywords, your pain point keywords, as your search engine optimization, which I can also help you with if you schedule a consult with me through MCSC, and I'll tell you about more of that at the end. So that's what pull marketing is. Then there's push marketing. And push marketing is also known as direct marketing, and is a form of general advertising. So anything you put in front of an audience to get their attention. And this would be newspaper article or newspaper and magazine articles, Facebook advertising, radio and news advertising, and printed marketing such as brochures that you put on counters, or this is a door hanger. Google AdWords would be considered push marketing. Now you can choose one option or the other. I think the scary thing about being a business owner is you have to do all of it, but you don't. You just have to know, again, what your clients like, what is their touch points, and what is their motivations. So if you have an older demographic as your ideal customer, then Instagram is not going to be necessarily the place that you want to go, but maybe print marketing. But again, print marketing is sort of really fading out. It still has its place in some ways, and especially if you do a lot of person-to-person marketing, because another one for it could be push and pull marketing is just referral marketing. Referral marketing is really all about storytelling, but you kind of have to get out there and push yourself in front of these people and show your value. So I guess that would be a form of push marketing as well, as instead of pull marketing. Because pull marketing, you're saying, hey, this is what I do. Here's what I offer. I can give you some tips on how to prepare for your photo shoot, or I can give you some tips on makeup for your photo shoot. And people are interested in that, and that draws them in. push marketing is different. Now I'm going to a networking event. I'm saying, hey, this is what I do. I say my value proposition. And then if they're interested, they can come to me. It's like an advertisement. So does anybody have any questions up to this point? I can already tell you right now, I'm probably going to end a little bit early, but I still have couple more gold nuggets we can share. And one thing I would love to give you as a really good resource, and this is really great for when you're writing your marketing message. You know, you have all of your keywords and values and stuff, and you know your client. This will help. This is called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. If you don't have this book, this is a really, really good one, because it really has a formula which identifies what the pain is that the customer is feeling. And it kind of writes your story out as you as the hero. So most of the time we think, well, our customer is the hero, right? No, actually, our customer is the hero for hiring you. So yes, they are the customer, but you're ultimately the hero, but they're the hero in the story because they hired you. So I think it's really good. And it really helped me kind of define my audience more, because it forced me to think about what they struggle with. So anyway, I highly recommend that. And I'm going to go ahead and finalize this. So remember, you're going to show your audience the experience that you'll give them the moment they see you. And this is Carrie Ascension. If you've ever worked with her, she's done multiple presentations through the Mission Community Services, then you'll know that she is this light right here. She just is so exuberant and lovey and warm and welcoming. And so I loved this picture of her. This picture emulated her absolutely clearly. So how can I help you? So what I do is I'm a consultant with MCSC, so you in the Women's Business Center. So obviously, if you need personal brand photography, professional headshots, or advertising photography, you can go to my website, check it out, look at my specials. But I can also help you with the next steps in developing your brand by scheduling a consultation with me through the Women's Business Center. And what you can also do is you can schedule a consult with me if you're struggling with, say, developing a website, because I'm really good at WordPress. If you're into WordPress, in fact, I did a WordPress presentation last summer, and I believe it's on YouTube. If you need any help, that's a really good resource to go to. But I can also help you with some of your packaging, any brand elements or design, since I'm a graphic designer, and certain other marketing platforms. I used to be really good at Facebook, but Facebook's changed and it's not my favorite anymore. So I can certainly help you with Facebook, but Instagram is where my focus is these days, but I won't do any presentations on Facebook anymore. Okay. And that, I believe, is it. So I did end at an hour and a half. I thought this was an hour and a half presentation. I'm so sorry. I tried to stretch it out.
You did a fabulous job, Gina. I must say, stop it. You did a perfect job. No worries.
But if you guys have any questions, we have time. So you're certainly welcome to ask any in-depth questions about your business. And specifically, I'm here to help if you have any other questions.
I have a question. How would you go about, you were talking about your brand and the name of your brand and how you kind of want to expand to other creative endeavors and stuff like dance and whatnot. Would you change your brand name so that it could house all of that, or how would you create a brand so it involves?
Yeah, so you told me you were a singer and an artist, and also what was your other business? I'm sorry.
Author and illustrator, and then
an illustrator. Okay, so you're an artist. So you can still brand yourself. I would definitely brand myself as a personal brand because you are an artist, and under the umbrella of an artist, you do illustrations. However, if you want to direct market, like directly sell your illustrations and your books, that might be better off being a separate brand. You could create two brands, your personal brand, and then an offshoot brand of the product itself, because I think it'll be easier. And then you can still sell that brand on your artist's page, your personal brand page. And that's what I would suggest. When I first launched personal branding photography, I thought I needed another website. But I'm finding that I don't. And I think that's because if you are really sort of representing yourself as in one industry in general, which in this case, consider yourself an artist, then you can still show your passions in multiple areas. But if you're a technical business and then also an artist, it's a little harder to make that overlap. So that's what I would suggest, is develop the personal brand first. Unless you already have products to sell, you already have books to sell, then maybe do a little landing page for your children's books, and then develop a personal brand. And then you can kind of evolve that to sell the product better. Does that make sense? Did I answer that okay?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Lila, do you have any questions?
No, I'm just digesting everything. Is it because it's a lot, and I'm like,
it is a
working with
lot
all this right now too, but it's just so like, it's a lot, but in a really good way. Like I took the personality test and I found out I'm the magician. So
oh, cool. Okay.
But,
Ooh, that's nice.
If I have any questions, can I just reach out to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And if you guys want my resources, because I do have, I also have on my page, what's really cool is I have the values and the characteristics, and then I have a definition of kind of what the colors. Now, of course, mine is more about personal brand, but it still works because I just started researching because I needed to know like what the value, like success really looked like in a color scheme, and saw other different brands using those kind of colors. So I have like a color guide as well. So if you want those resources, email me. My email is, I could put it right here, is Gina@JenichiStudios.com.